Hello, Keisha. Welcome to the Mentally a Badass podcast.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, we never had a multiracial topic on this podcast. So I'm super excited and I'm going to learn a lot from you because I am not educated on this topic at all. So we're going to be learning a lot today. So in every Mentally About Us episode, we first like to dig deep into your past so we can get to know you a little bit better. But think back in your childhood when you said that you were going through some struggles with your mental health. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I grew up in a teeny tiny town where it was like 7 miles from one side to the other. So it was itty bitty. But I was one of the only, there's only a very small group of people of color in that town. And there's only two multiracial families in that town. And none of them were in my age group. All of them were younger than me, with my sisters were friends with them, but I was not because I was older. And so growing up, I just felt very othered. I felt not accepted by any group. So I was too black for the white people, but I was too white for the black people. And then all the Hispanic people thought I was Hispanic. And then they would get mad at me because I didn't speak Spanish. So I just felt very alone. I had a little group of friends. Like I had three people that were like my close friends. And they didn't understand what I was going through because they were white, but they were there. And I looking back on it now, I can see how I formed this like defense mechanism for whenever people would make fun of me or my hair, because no one knew how to do my hair when I was growing up. It was, if you could see the pictures, it was
Mhm.
everywhere. And so my defense mechanism became agreeing with all of the bullies and being like, you're right. Because if I agreed with them, they wouldn't have any power to say anything else.
Mhm.
But then it also gets in your head, or got in my head, that it was right and was true. So that really dealt a blow on my mental health. It took me a long time to get out of that, to the point of I was in my 30s when I finally started to do the work to unlearn these behaviors and thoughts that I have about myself. And still to this day, I mean, it still is work. I'm 41, so like I'm still doing this work, but I've been able to see how not only I've improved and my mental health has improved and how I view myself has improved, but how I have been able to help my son with his challenges of his mental health and becoming the confident, secure person that he is today. And he's in a much better place than I was when I was a kid. Kids need that support. that's
Yeah.
that's where I've been
Yeah.
coming in. But yeah, it's still a struggle to this day, but I'm learning every day. It's never going to end, because yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have some follow-up questions
Yes.
on that. First, I'm so happy to hear that your son is, doing better with that because, we want to break like the generational, I'm not going to say curse, trauma, I
Yep.
guess.
Yep.
So I think I first want to ask, how old were you when you started experiencing this? Was it was it in elementary school? Was it before that, middle school?
It was in elementary school. I
Mhm.
remember the first incident wasn't necessarily because I was a multiracial, but it was because I was a person of color. And I remember this boy, and it was like I think like third or fourth grade, and he used to chase me around the playground and would call me the N-word.
Mhm.
Yes. And so when I told the teachers, they just made him write an apology letter where he again used the word, and they were like, there we go, it's all good. And I was like, and my mom, who was white, and my dad, who was black, were both like, well, I apologize, just move on. And I'm like, okay.
That's so that could be so frustrating and like I can especially, relate to well not exactly what you went through, but when you are getting bullied and then you bring it up to the teacher and then they say, "Okay, you write a letter," and but it's not exactly what you're looking for and then they're like, "Oh, it's fine." It's like it makes you feel like they don't want to deal with it and that makes you feel unheard.
Yes. So you don't bring
Yeah.
it up again. You just,
Exactly. And then also with the agreeing thing, I did talk with somebody who talked about how we all just want to fit in and we just agree with something we may not actually agree with just to feel accepted. And then when you do that, you're subconsciously building an identity that's not good for you.
Yes.
Yeah, because so this happened in elementary school. I'm trying to think of like the most critical age is actually up till 6. But fun fact is that I've been reading this book and the first 2 years are actually the most critical. That the first 2 years of how like what happens is kind of like gonna set up like your whole life. Doesn't mean it's going to like if it's bad, doesn't mean your whole life's gonna be bad. Obviously you have to work on things, but which goes to another point where you're saying that you started you're working on your mental health when you were 30 years old and you still are today and it's going to be forever that you're going to be working on your mental health. And then you're right when you're saying that you're doing better, but there's still that like little voice in your head that is still saying the same thing. And that comes from our core beliefs that we developed. And one thing that one of my therapists said, when you create these core beliefs, they get a bit like cement.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first heard that, I was like, well, that kind of makes me upset. But and
Yeah.
I'm sure everything I'm saying, you probably already know all this, right? Because you're in psychology, so I'm probably just like, yeah.
Well,
But
but yeah, even cement. There are ways to get through cement. Cement can be broken.
let's talk.
You just got
Let's
to
use
take a
some
little
metaphors
jackhammer.
here.
Yeah, you just got to take a little jackhammer to it. You're good.
Well, I want to visualize this now.
You got to
So
break it down.
let's do some fun metaphors. Okay, so give me like the. Let's break it through. What are we gonna use to break it? Let's
I
just.
mean, I literally my go-to, because I never visualized it as cement. I
Mhm,
always visualized it as like you're being trapped in like a box
mhm.
and there is no door and there is no windows. So it's not like there's a door and you just can't open it. There is no door. You are trapped in this box of your beliefs, of what you've been told, of what you believe of yourself. But you just have to give yourself a single tool, whether that be an axe or a saw. Give yourself one tool, and little by little, you can create a door, which then
I
you'll be
like
able to
that.
walk through and get
That's
through.
actually really good.
It's just, it takes time. It's not something that happens overnight.
Mhm.
And you got to give yourself the grace. If you need to take a break from breaking down that door, you take a break, because
Yeah.
people think that like if you take a break from working on yourself, then you're going to fall back onto who you were. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily true. Sometimes you need to take a break for your mental health so you can continue working on your mental health. Whether that's just not thinking about anything. My favorite decompression, like think about nothing tool is going to the float therapy. If you've never been to that,
I heard of that.
oh my God, it's literally the best thing ever. It's a deprivation tank and
Mhm.
you're in like 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So you effortlessly float. Like you have to work on sinking if you want to sink. Like,
Yeah.
but there's no sound and no sight. Like even if you open your eyes, even if there's nothing, it's pitch black. So it's just you in there. And I get like the best nap of my life. I feel like about 10 minutes in, I just like sleep and it just knocks me out. And my whole body, it releases everything in your body because Epsom salt has that ability to release all like toxins and stuff from your body. And so you get out and you just feel like a new person again. So then you're ready to take on those issues and those things again because you've taken that time to just rest.
That is awesome. I need to do that.
Oh my gosh, it's so nice. They have some in Orlando. I know that's
Yeah.
your your area.
Yeah, I've Googled these places and I looked it up, but I never actually like went and did it myself. But I think I kind of get a little like nervous with the whole claustrophobia.
You don't have to close the pod. You can keep the pod open. That the entire room is soundproof and
Mhm.
completely black. So you can leave the whole pod open if you wanted to.
Okay, that makes sense. I was like, I don't want like a whole Final Destination thing,
Yeah.
when you can't
No, I'm
open.
like, close the entire pod. But even if you close it, it's still cracked a little. So it's still like some
True.
things. And it's like literally you tap it and it just like opens up on its own.
So that is
Yeah.
cool. Okay, awesome.
No trap.
Do you remember how much it was?
It was so it's $80 an hour, but if it's your
Mhm.
first time, I think you get like $20 off. And then if it's your birthday, you get half off. the floats. So,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, I've made it a point. I go um, for my own mental health. I go on my father's birthday because he passed away in 2019, right before COVID happened. So like it's sad to say I'm thankful for that, but like he passed in December of 2019.
Hmm.
And if he'd had held on a few months more longer, we wouldn't have been able to go say goodbye to him because of COVID
Yeah.
and everything like that. So like I'm thankful, but also
Yeah.
like it's really weird to say you're thankful for a parent's death, you know?
I
But
get
yeah,
it.
it was inevitable. So I always go on his birthday and on the day that I last spoke to him because that's harder for me than the day he passed.
Yeah.
The day I last spoke to him. So I always go those 2 days, and then whenever I absolutely need it, I just pick other days to go.
Yeah, I need to do that.
Best mental health thing, best like break I can do because then I can get back into doing my work or
Hmm.
working on myself or something like that because I've had that.
You convinced me. Yeah. Be so cool if like the that float place would be like, hey, you want to sponsor mentally about
Yeah. No,
it? Hey, why
that would be
not?
right, right.
You're
I
already
mean, that
talking
would be
about
perfect.
them.
That would be perfect for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Have you ever heard of, and I discovered this on Instagram, but I'm a little skeptical about it because of the placebo effect, is it's called the EE system.
What's that?
It's, oh my gosh, it's like it's like you sleep in a room and it's like static TVs and it's like an energy thing.
I just saw an ad for that. Yeah.
Maybe we probably saw the same ad. It was probably because it's in Orlando. We probably both were. I saw it
Yeah.
on Instagram.
Yeah, no, I saw it on Instagram also. Yeah,
Yes.
and it sounded interesting. Like I'm unsure. I'm like, can't I get those sounds on my phone?
Yeah, yeah, that's why I'm a little skeptical about is because like, I'm open to new therapies, absolutely, but like it was really expensive too. I
Oh,
looked at it, I think it was like $300 for like 8 hours, which obviously you need to sleep for 8 hours. And I was like,
why would you sleeping there like
so
8 hours
you
in the
sleep
middle of
in.
the day? Or
I mean, on your day off or whatever,
yeah,
I
I
don't
guess.
know. But yeah, you sleep in it and it's like apparently there's some like energy that like they say, oh, we don't obviously doesn't cure diseases, but like it puts your body in a position that it can fight because your body can naturally do that. Which I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but it's like I said, the placebo effect. You're told
Oh,
all of this.
yeah.
How are we gonna know if it's like if I go there and I spend that money and I lay in that bed and I sleep for 8 hours and I wake up and I'm like, oh, that's the best sleep of my life. How do I know if that's coming from there or I'm telling my brain that it's going to be the best sleep of my life?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm skeptical about it. I'm just like,
Yeah. I didn't
but
know it was that much. I don't know.
yeah, it was like super expensive. And I'm just like, okay, clearly it's not accessible for everybody, but it's also very different and no one's ever heard about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually sent it to this girl I interviewed and has a lot of knowledge on energy and things like that. And she was like, I never even heard of this either. She's like, that sounds interesting. And I'm like, yeah, but also I'm just like, because I did look at reviews and they were all positive, but then again, it's like,
Are they
I
the
don't
people?
know. You never really can trust it. So I don't know. I obviously am more skeptical because it's $300. I'm like, do I really want to spend that?
Right, right, right.
But
They
hey,
have
if
like a nap version. Like sometimes you just need like an hour and a half power nap and just like
yeah, and then right, and then another thing it said there's like they recommend 10 sessions to get the full effect.
that's like
I'm
three
like,
thousand
what? I gotta
dollars.
spend $3,000 to feel okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
good.
floating works so much better in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I was just like, this is weird. Yeah. They
Yeah,
should have like a free trial or
they
something.
should.
Especially since it's so new. No one knows, but it's I'm assuming if it's actually a scam, I'm like hoping that like I don't know, the authorities would get involved.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of look at them like, okay, I feel like if they're there,
Yeah.
then I get
I know a lot of people that deal in energy and stuff, and I haven't asked them about that, so I should to see if they have heard about it.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's crazy. No.
I like to always just like go to different topics.
Oh no, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tried so much stuff and floating by far is the thing that works the best for me. But there is a rage spa opening up
A
in Orlando.
what?
It's called a rage spa. So like
Okay, do
it's like
tell.
a combination between a rage room and a
Okay.
spa. So have you been to like a rage room?
No, but I want to.
Yeah. So basically, you get to do all the stuff that's in a rage room. So you get to break all the things, do all the stuff. And then right after that, you immediately go into like, a massage or like spa activities. So
That's
it's just
so
like,
nice.
so it's like you get to get all your anger or frustrations out and then you get to go relax. And I was like,
That's
okay, that's
healthy.
kind of genius.
That
And
is.
it's going to be America's first and it's opening in Orlando. I've been following them on TikTok because I'm a little bit obsessed.
I would be too. That's a perfect, like, that's something that's needed in like the
It's
whole
all
wellness
going on, which
industry.
is fantastic. It's
Okay,
all
let me
working out
see if
well,
they want to sponsor Mentally About Us.
right? You should
Hey, if
be.
you're listening, sponsor me. Thank you. I beg you. No, I'm kidding.
I know, right? They should. But I think it would be perfect because they haven't opened up yet. So they still need some like word of mouth. So,
Okay. 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 Cool. Cool. Cool.
well,
I need to like write this down somewhere. So let's say there's someone who is in your position who struggles with the whole like not knowing where you fit in, because I do know that a lot of people feel the way you feel. So what advice would you give them?
the biggest thing is just, I mean, from a multiracial person standpoint, is to find other multiracial people because then you realize that you're not alone, which for the longest time, I thought that the experiences I went through were mine alone. Like, because I grew up in such a small town and, that is just what I experienced. And then talking to multiracial people from all over the country and even all over the world, I come to find out that it's common, which is
Hmm.
sad, but the feeling of not being alone is a little bit freeing.
Yeah.
Find not like-minded individuals, but find people that share the struggles. So whether it's of you're going through, like when my son was going through the bullying, it was finding other kids going through it or talking to him about the experiences I had bullying, giving the multiple different solutions because one piece of advice is not going to work for everybody. So I'm a big advocate of getting multiple pieces of advice and multiple possible solutions or strategies and testing them out to see which one works for you because they're
Yeah.
not all going to work. And being honest with those around you because no one knows you're struggling unless you tell them. So talking probably
Yeah.
would be my number one advice to give to people is talking to people because until I started talking to people and started actively looking for other people that are like me, I was not able to address the issues that I went through. I mean, did talking to other people that were like me open up many more things that I didn't even know were an issue for me that I was holding on to so subconsciously? Yes, it did. It absolutely did. Like I found so many more traumas that I was holding on to that I didn't know were traumas by talking to other people. But the feeling of not being alone and finding people that I can talk to about this stuff has healed me more than anything ever could.
Yeah, because you did talk about isolation, and when you were a kid, you just wanted to feel accepted. So if you're finding
Mhm.
people that have been through it as well, you're like, oh my God, these are my people,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And yes, yes. And like my family couldn't be those people because
Hmm.
my family is, aside from my two younger sisters, I don't have any, and a cousin that I was never close with, but I don't have any multiracial family members, so
Okay.
family couldn't understand what I was going through. But talking to a teacher or talking to a colleague or someone at work or somebody and then being like I had one friend that who's completely 100% white and she was like I could never understand what you're going through but
Hmm.
I just searched online and I found all these multiracial like groups that you can join
Yeah. Yeah.
and just finding that person that can push you to the next step. They might not be the solution but they can help you find the solution.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have two younger sisters.
Do you guys like talk to each other?
We do. We have so I'm definitely the darkest of the three. My middle sister lives in Portland, so she's gotten very white looking because no sun there.
Yeah.
So she has black features, so you can like tell she's mixed
Hmm.
just from her features. So she has always felt like she's been more accepted by the Black community, whereas I have always felt more accepted by the white community, even though we're like the opposite looking, which
Yeah.
is odd. And then my youngest sister, she when she tells people she's half Black, no one believes her. She is super light skinned and her hair is like straight brown, like she just doesn't look it. And the hardest things for her that she's gone through is that she's so white passing that people will say things to her that are very clearly racist
Oh, really? Do you have an
because they
example?
feel comfortable talking about things to another white person, not realizing that she's not. So that's been her big struggle.
Do you have an example of something that they would say?
Anything's like, be like, oh, these people don't tip when she was in a serving position, or oh gosh, I have the Black table, be prepared for this. Or, oh gosh, I have what is it? The Haitians that don't do this. Or they would just feel comfortable just saying little microaggressions that are like, okay, like you wouldn't say this to, the Black colleague, the other Black server. You wouldn't be like, oh my God, I got a Black table. They're not going to tip me. Or, oh my God, I got this. They're not going to do this. Or have you seen this? That's these Black people moved into our neighborhood. They're really going to bring down the property value type of things that people would just openly say to her. And she'd just look at them. She'd be like, I'm half Black, right? And then they would be very uncomfortable. Then they would just not know how to proceed.
That is insane. Like, even if I just feel like
Yeah.
just for saying that period,
Yeah. No,
that's just like to anybody, even if it's like a white person. It's like, what?
yeah.
That's so insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, I've definitely experienced some of it too. We have one of the people that doesn't work at my job, but he comes in and like if we really need somebody, he's like that on call type of person because he has another job, but he used to work there, so he's just like a backup person. And one day he came in and there was this couple that had come in and they look around the same age, but the wife definitely looks more put together than the husband. And he was just like, mail order bride. And I was like, why? Why do you think that would be okay to say to me? Why do you think that'd be okay to say to anybody? Like, I was like, they're the same age. He's like, that doesn't mean she's not a mail order bride. I was like, you need to shut your mouth now. Like, we need to not talk.
Wait, I need to step back because I don't know if I heard you correctly. What did
He called this woman a mail order bride
what
because
does that mean?
that means you pay for someone from another country to come and be your wife.
I didn't even know that was a thing until today.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing in some it's more of a thing in some cultures than it is in other cultures. Yes,
Crazy.
and they say it as a insult to the woman that is the mail order bride, when in reality shouldn't be on the mail.
Yeah.
Did it?
That's
Then
so
I'd order a mail
crazy.
order bride. Like,
Yeah. I
but
mean, I know
no,
about arranged
people.
marriages, of course, but I didn't know. That's so crazy. I have a question. Do you think it can exist in other people experience? And the reason I'm asking that is I'm Cuban, right? And Cubans have different skin color. Like some are darker than others, right? And so people just automatically assume that if you have dark skin, you're Spanish, as you were saying before, which is not okay. For me, I am Cuban and Italian. So my dad is darker than my mother. And then in school, people wouldn't believe that I'm Spanish. They're like, you're not Spanish. You're too white. I got that a lot.
Mm,
So I guess my question is did what I go through, was that, I mean, I don't want to compare my experience to yours, of course, but do you think I guess, can exist in other
absolutely.
situations? Yeah. Like I'm trying to word things where I'm like,
Any person that is a mix of two different cultures or two different races or ethnicities is multiracial. Like you
yeah.
technically are multiracial because you have Italian and Cuban. So
Hmm.
you are multiracial. And that experience, like I discovered there's an organization called the Critical Mixed Race Studies. And they just had a conference. And I went to this conference and I talked to people that are like Japanese American that live in Japan that are one of the ladies at Harvard, she calls herself, she's a self-appointed Blasian, so she's Black and Asian.
Hmm.
There was a lady who was Hispanic and white, and all of these people had the type of experiences that you even said, that I even said, that people were like, no, you're too white for this, or no, you're too dark for this, or no, you're not one of us because you're not fully one of us. And even within that, even if you are strictly monoracial, like my aunt is Black. She's 100% Black, but she's a light-skinned Black
Mhm.
person. So she has all colorism is a thing within all communities as
Mhm.
well, within all people of color communities, because like white, unless you're mixed with something, there's no real like other, the things. But Black people, Hispanic people, all of them have different shades, and
Mhm.
colorism is a huge thing in that community. So you are seen as less than if you are, depends on the community, either lighter or darker, and
Yeah.
you can't relate to their struggles because you're lighter or darker.
So I was brought up in New Jersey. So where I lived, like, I'm not gonna say like how racism didn't exist because I'm sure it did, but like the way I was brought up was, I don't know, no, I guess no one really had comments like that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and I think honestly the majority of the people there were dark skinned. That's just like, I guess there is more dark skin than white skin, so maybe that's I don't know. But like I grew up in a Hispanic demographic. I mean I do know there's people who would say things like against Hispanics, like they'll say, I don't want to say the word, it's not right, but
Yeah.
it's basically the Spanish version, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get
So like my dad was called that, like, so there was a couple people doing that, but like I don't know, unless I was just oblivious when I was a kid. I mean, that could have very well been it because, you know, with racism, that is taught.
it.
And
Absolutely.
so where I grew up, like my parents didn't teach, like they're not, you know what I mean? So I just grew up in that way. And so when everything started happening, I was like, I can't even imagine thinking the way these people think, you know? And then I felt very like, I'm not gonna say like, I kind of felt very like ignorant towards it because I was like, oh my God, this is a thing. Because I think another thing too is social media, and you hear from more people. While when you're in your town, you're in this little bubble. So
Yes.
like in New Jersey, we're very liberal. So
Yes.
where I grew up, it's all blue. And that's how we all together act. And I mean, I'm sure there are probably racist people in the area, but like it wasn't as like, I guess,
Yes.
big compared to like I guess Florida or Texas or whatever, right?
Right.
So I think me being brought up like that, I guess I thought in my head that it's like we don't have that anymore. And so, in my head I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to feel, I shouldn't beat myself up over that because that's just, it's not my fault how it was brought up. I mean, it's good that I can't even think in that way. That's awesome. My parents did a good job. But yeah, no, now I mean like as everything has happened, I'm like, it gets me mad. 'Cause I'm like, seriously, like I mean, like I said, it's good that I don't understand why people think like that, but that's so frustrating,
It is.
you
It is.
know. Like and like you were saying that you don't believe it's gonna end until like everyone's the same color, but I hope like because it is a taught thing, so I'm kind of hoping that people wake up and when you have children, teach people to love and
Correct.
be
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah. Gen Z, I definitely have, and even Gen Alpha, I have a lot more hope than I did before. I feel like millennials kind of opened the door to the conversation,
Hmm.
and Gen Z is like, we're here. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about it. And I do see that that's a benefit of social media. People get out of their little bubble that they're in. Are there downsides to social media? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. But like, it's exposing people to a bigger scope than what previous generations have done. So I think that as time goes on and as people talk openly more about things, that it will change. I do think that more people are going to be similar shades because more mixing will occur.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously there'll be different shades because different, like different features,
Hmm.
will happen. But I think overall we're gonna blend together to be. And because, I mean, when you think about it, like marriage, interracial marriage was legalized in like 1969, which is not, well, to me, it was thinking back, I'm like, that's not that long ago. But like,
Yeah.
that was like, what, 1979? That was like 14 years before I was born. My parents were married, what, 12 years before or after it was made legal. So it was still looked down upon a lot. There are some places that they couldn't go because they would be judged so harshly. They were not able to go to Alabama. Um,
They marry their cousins over there.
yeah, yeah. And they still have sundown towns over there, which is,
Sundown towns.
yeah. Sundown towns are places where it's not safe for Black people to be after dark.
They do.
They still do in America. There's still things called sundown towns. Ocoee, what was it? When the person that I worked for, when her and her husband moved down here, her husband took a job as a police officer in Ocoee. And this was like 18 years ago.
Hmm.
And or 19 years ago, something like that. And Ocoee at that time was a sundown town still.
I never
Like
even heard of sundown
yeah.
towns until
When they
today.
got married, they got married in Ocoee, and one of their friends who was Black would not go to their wedding because it was in Ocoee, because it was
Sick.
not safe for him to be there.
That's so crazy. I guess I've never even heard of that. So I'm like learning so much today on this episode. Yeah, I mean,
It
you
is,
learn every day. You learn something new
yeah,
every day.
it is insane how far we think we've got,
Mm-hmm.
but how recent a lot of things still,
Mm-hmm.
how recently, especially in the span of America or even the span of the world,
Mm-hmm.
how recently things have started to change. It's still like we're still in our beginning stages of change.
Yeah, I just like want to. I wish I knew like why and how this like started. Like what was going through people's brains. I mean, like they're like, oh yeah, let's just go hate on this race. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't.
I've never been able to put myself in those people's shoes because I can't think like that. I've always prided myself on being able to see both sides, like a little devil's advocate. That's what my friends call me sometimes because I always argue the other side. Even if I don't agree with it, I'll like argue it because I'm like, you need
Mhm.
to at least be able to see the other side and understand the other side.
Yeah.
There's some things that obviously cannot argue the other side of because it's just I can't put myself in those shoes. So like that's one of the things. Like racism, I just don't understand.
Hmm.
I don't understand how people think like that. I don't understand how their brains work, and I don't understand why they think it's okay.
People hate what they don't. Okay,
Understand?
this is yes. You just we're finishing each other's sentences literally. I actually because that's now I'm kind of like just gonna talk a little bit about transgender because they deal with a lot of
So much.
hate and they're they unsafe because there was this girl where she actually wanted to be on the podcast, but she was like, oh, I like to be on it, but I think I'm gonna get canceled. And I was like, why? She's like, oh, some things I say could be controversial. And I'm like, what is it? And then I'm like, what are you telling me? Are you racist? Are you homophobic? Like what? Like what is it? She's like, well, I'm not racist. I'm like, okay, good, because if you were, I'll be like, bye. But the second thing, she was like, well, I wouldn't say I'm homophobic. I just had bad experience with gay men. And then she was like, and then I'm not really for trans. And I said, okay, first most people would be like, yo, screw you, right? But I'm like, let me try to understand. Because she's young, she's Gen Z. And so I asked her, I was like, so why? Why? And I don't think she said like she hated trans. I think she was just saying, I don't understand it, which is
Mhm.
obviously a difference.
Yes.
And she was like, I just don't get it. And I said, okay, fair. And then I just explained it to her. And I still don't think she agreed with me, which okay, whatever, it's fine. At least you've listened, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not actually like this is kind of a little like not shady, but she ended up starting drama with me at one point.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was just like, okay, unfollow, blah.
Right. Yeah, no, a lot of it is because that's how she's raised. That's the things
Hmm.
that she, was taught, and she doesn't know better. If they're willing to listen and you have the space or the energy to do that, definitely have those conversations. But I'm a huge proponent of keep your peace. Like, if you do not have the mental capacity to talk to people like that, don't. It's not your job to educate.
Yeah. So I just, because at first I liked her. I thought she was cool. Where we met at this event and I never had a problem with her. We had like talks and yeah. So I just for the sake of that, I didn't want to put her in like this shadow where I'm like this girl, you know what I mean? So I just did. And like, I don't, like I said, I don't think she responded back being like, oh yeah, no, I don't agree. I think she was just like, oh, thanks for the info or something like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, and
And then,
sometimes, sorry.
yeah, but no, you're fine. And then it was like around election time. She, obviously you can vote for whoever you want. You can do whatever you want. And she obviously was happy that Trump won, which is okay. Like, if that's who you voted for and you're whatever, like, okay. But thing is, she was overly excited about it.
Ugh.
So that's what turned me off. So I unfollowed her because I just didn't want to see that.
Nope.
Could have,
I followed.
so yeah. So I unfollowed her, and you know what she does? She goes to my TikTok. She finds my TikTok, and she tags me in a video about like. So tags me in the comments about like this girl talking about people unfollowing each other or something like that. And I'm like, and I literally was just like, I commented, I'm like, I unfollowed you because I didn't like what I saw. You don't have to you don't have to act like a
Yeah.
child. And then she was like, well, you're a child for unfollowing me because of this. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm just like, I am too old for this.
Do you owe it to somebody you don't even know to follow them?
I met her once and like, we were like more like acquaintances. I wouldn't consider her
Yeah.
like my friend. And
Yeah.
so I unfollowed because I didn't like her content. Like, I didn't block her because I'm just like, I'm not gonna be that dramatic and block her. But obviously I eventually did because she was just being like toxic, you know?
Yeah.
What was I? So yeah, so she was starting like this whole like calling me mature because I get it, like people would think in their head, oh, you're unfollowing me because I voted for this person, like that's not right. And I'm honestly, people should do whatever they want, but like I did not unfollow her because I knew who she voted for because I already knew who she was voting for a while back.
Yeah.
But the reason I unfollowed her is because of how weird it was, of how excited she was. That was the weird part. So I was like, okay, this is a little creepy. I'm just gonna unfollow, right? And then yeah, she found out so fast. I was like, dang, you must really be a little obsessed with me here. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I just like messaged her on Instagram, like, listen, we're not doing this whole take, and it was like public comments too. So I'm like, if you had a problem, you messaged me and you'd ask me, hey, why did you unfollow me? If you did that, honestly, I would be fine with it. You're allowed to ask a question. And then I would just tell you maturely why I unfollowed you. That's fine. I'm not upset with that. It was just what she did was very passive.
Hmm.
That's what annoyed me because she was thinking in her head, I didn't do anything mean. I was just tagging you in a video. I'm like, do you not understand the psychology behind of what you just did?
Right.
You tried to instigate me instead of talking to me. Like, you're an adult, I'm an adult. If you feel upset about something, you're more than welcome to come to me and we'll have a conversation. You don't
Yeah.
tag me in videos.
Right.
Like, what? So anyway, I just like wrote, like, explained to her, I'm like, this is why I did it. And honestly, what you did just proved I'm not really crazy. I'm not a fan of you. And in my head, I kind of was just like, okay, I did say this, like, between our conversation with the transgender and what you did. And I said, I'm not a fond of you. That's what I said to her. I was like, I'm not fond of you. So if you want to understand where I'm coming from, so you don't have to wonder, this is what it is. And I just blocked her right after. I didn't want to hear her back, to be honest with you, to protect my own peace.
Yes.
So, and she did go on TikTok being like, oh, you blocked me before I was able to say anything. And I'm like, okay, I'm ignoring you. Bye.
Yeah. We're done.
But it's crazy. Yeah. It's just, and that's what you're saying about protecting your peace. It's like,
Yeah.
I just like felt like I just had to like just tell her like that and just call it a day. But it's just so toxic. And it's like,
It is. Some people
yeah.
don't want to learn.
Yeah. So I'm just like, when I saw that comment, I'm just like, what? I've never had a fight start like this since like college. Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, so let's talk about your program. Tell me all
Yes.
about it. I know nothing about it. Go ahead.
Well, so for my school that I'm doing, it's I'm getting my doctorate in prevention science,
Mhm.
which is the first of its kind in the US. It's very popular overseas. It's about developing programs and strategies and tools for people to deal with issues before they become issues.
Mhm.
I like to say the US. I mean, I think you said that in the one past podcast episode with Emily, that we focus on fixing a problem after it's become a problem, like on intervention. But like, why does it even need to be a problem? Like, if you give someone the tools and resources to deal with things as they come up in their lives, then we would, one, have a lot less people in jail, a lot less people dependent on drugs and alcohol, because they would have healthy coping mechanisms and healthy tools to deal with things as they come up, whether it's a lot of things are death in the family member. The loss of a job is a thing that drives people to like being homeless,
Yeah.
which, I mean, the tools and resources you get will not necessarily prevent you from losing your job,
Hmm.
because obviously, um, stuff happens, but it could give you the tools to not just completely break down after you lose the job and go into a depression, to get back out there and get a new job and start and keep going, just having healthy coping mechanisms. I think that my original focus was on adolescent mental health, because I've read and I've learned so much about adolescents and how their brain is literally going through this developmental phase where it is changing. The reason they're so quick to anger and quick to emotion is because the synapses in their brain are shorter than what they are
Mm.
once they reach maturity, which is like 25. So it's shorter, so that's why they're so quick to jump from one emotion to the next. It's like 0 to 60 in no time at all. And so learning about that, I was like, I want to help kids, whether it be like in adolescence, this could be for puberty, this could be for a parental death, this could be because of their gender or their race or their sexual preference. Like, all these things have to do with your mental health. But during adolescence is the time that they are really kind of developing their sense of self and developing who they are or who they want to be. And so that was always my focus. And then I get into my doctorate program and I'm like halfway through, and she was like, you need to narrow this down. You can't just do everybody. And I was like, okay, let me hit the books again and see, kinds of things. So I was doing research and I just was like, mixed race adolescence. And it popped up with, like a bunch of multiracial papers, but not a bunch. There is not a lot of research, and the research only goes back about 10 years for the most part. There are a few things that go back longer than that, but majority 10 years. And I was like, huh. And I was reading it and I was like, wow, this strikes a chord with me. This is something that I dealt with, that I didn't know wasn't a singularly me issue. And I was like, you know what? I can do something with this. I can do it. So I was like, okay, I want to do it on multiracial adolescents. And they were like, okay, it's very hard to work with adolescents when kids under 18 when you are in this program, because you have to get like permissions to work with kids and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, how about I work on adults looking back on their childhood experiences? So therefore I can see the thing they're far enough outside of their adolescence that they can look back on it with a different brain, without being so deep in that emotions. But I can also learn what they wish they had available to them when they were kids. And then I can develop a program to help these multiracial adolescents. And even if it's just creating groups and social media pages and all these things, so therefore multiracial children or adolescents can meet and talk and discuss and just form a community in and of itself. Like, if that's what's needed, which is what I'm finding is what's needed, they want community of people that are like them. Then that's what I'll do. Am I going to make a lot of money on it? No. I know I'm not going to make a lot of money from it, because I mean, Facebook doesn't pay you, and not a lot of people are on Facebook anymore, but Instagram doesn't pay you. Like, I mean, it does. TikTok also pays you, but I want it for people to come and be able to talk organically
Hmm.
and we'll have like meetings and things like that. But I also want it available to everybody, not just those that can afford to pay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I definitely believe in that whole Facebook group. I just actually recently created one for
Yes.
Mentally a Badass. And so far I have like almost 60 people. Remind me to invite you to that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. By the way, people are on Facebook. They're just not, it may look like people aren't on Facebook,
Yeah.
but I think it's because of if you post something on your news feed and you don't get much engagement, you may think, oh, they're not active. But the reality is that their feeds are oversaturated.
Oh, yeah. I'm totally on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like,
Yeah.
it's the younger generation that I'd be like, "Well, I wanna talk to them," but also I might create a Facebook page for parents of multiracial
Mm,
children because that was a huge thing. My mom didn't know how to help me. My mom was
yeah.
white, like, she didn't know what I was dealing with, and so creating a page for the parents to give them support, and therefore they can connect with other parents that are parents of multiracial children, and so they can all support each other and build that community.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually a really good idea, and that's where, like, the Facebook part would come in. Um,
Oh, I love that.
okay, so you said you're currently in the early stages because typically I usually send my listeners somewhere. Is there anything that they can do to support you?
Right now, I have only posted one thing on TikTok. I plan on posting more because I'm going to need study participants
Hmm.
for because I'm actually having to do a study and I'll be starting that in next year, obviously, because not quite there yet. But if there's anybody listening that is multiracial or you don't necessarily have to identify as multiracial. You just need to have two parents that are of different races.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are people that have parents of two different races that identify as one. Which is perfectly acceptable and that's how they identify. That's perfect. But I'm looking for people that have parents of two different races to participate in this study. So if you follow me, it's gonna be at Keisha Cornelius. So my name on TikTok. If you follow me, I'm gonna be starting posting about it probably the beginning of January because my survey is going to start probably about March time. So I'm going to start posting in January to kind of start growing my TikTok so I can get people to participate. So any multiracial people or any people of parents of two different races.
I think starting in January sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You
Need to
know,
get through Christmas
prepare.
for the holidays.
Yes, December is like my prep month. But I
Yeah.
have some things I want to do in January as well. I'm going to follow you. I'm trying to follow you right now on TikTok. So what is it
Yeah.
again?
It should be at Keisha Cornelius. Let me double check it because again, I'm horrible at this.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Just followed you back. And then I'll put your handle in the description so
Perfect.
people know. Make life easier for them.
Perfect. Yeah, I only
Yeah.
have one post and it was done 2 weeks after the election with my thoughts
Mhm.
because I was going through it, but
Yeah.
I gained a lot of followers from that in and of itself, so I'm hoping to
Really?
gain more people here in January. And by a lot of people,
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't
Yeah.
my thing is so small because I've really never posted, so
That's
yeah.
cool. I see you already have 107 followers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. That means like people are interested and such. Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I did talk about it in that first post that I did, what I was going to be doing, so I got some people following because of that, so and I've been just slowly following multiracial content makers. Like, there's been a ton of people, like, I just typed it in, and just, like, so many people came up, and I was like, "This alone is a resource for individuals that are kind of trying to find where they belong."
Yeah. TikTok is great for finding your people because the algorithm is pretty good with matching.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You just gotta follow the right people,
Yeah.
and don't comment on those things that you don't want on your feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, but yeah, I'm very excited to start it. I'm excited for my 2-week break once Christmas starts, but, I gotta get just the last few things done for school, and then I'll be able to start working with people, so I'm really
Awesome.
excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
I
you for
really
having
appreciate you. I learned so
me.
much today.
Oh my gosh, I had fun. This is my first podcast I've ever done, so I'm very excited.
Yeah. I love being a first.
Yes. Yeah,
I hope I made you feel comfortable and I hope you had a good time.
you did. This was fantastic. I enjoyed it.
Yay! All right, so everyone who's listening, hope you guys have a good rest of your day and stay tuned for next week's episode.